I will call to order this regular meeting of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. My name is Councilmember Alondra Cano, and I'm the chair of the committee for today. Council Vice President Glidden is actually out on National League of Cities business. With me today are Council members Andrew Johnson, Jacob Fry, and John Quincy. And on our agenda for today, we have a few items for discussion, and I will need the clerk's help in postponing item number 3, the comprehensive transportation legislation. We will take up this issue later, so we will delay this by one cycle. So the items are a federal, state, local legislative update with our staff. We will talk about seed libraries and also our 2015 legislative policies as they relate to investigation of an officer-involved death. So without further ado, if we could have staff members brief us on item number 1.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council members. Melissa Lesh with the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. I am the only IGR staff member here today, as the rest of our team is in St. Paul at the Capitol, monitoring and participating in some pretty significant hearings that we have going on today. Most notably, as part of today's update, I'd like to note that the Senate Judiciary Committee is meeting right now. So if any of our residents are watching, they're welcome to tune in after you're done watching us today. On the computer, you can watch the Senate Judiciary hearing and their discussion of body camera policy. Prior to the body cam discussion, they also had a discussion on the restoration of voting rights for felons who had had their rights removed while they were still incarcerated or on probation. So that was a good, healthy discussion, and that was passed on to the Rules Committee. Right now, the body camera discussion just started about 20 minutes ago. We expect that will go for a fair amount of time. I think that Judiciary might be the only stop for that bill in the Senate. So tune in to see that if you have a chance. The House is also looking at the body camera issue, and the House has taken a couple different approaches so far, but one that was introduced just this week is an approach to make all body camera information and video private. And so that will be an interesting issue to watch as that's debated in the House. Multiple reasons why the author might have chosen to go that approach. At the city's position, for those of our residents who are interested, is that we would like that information to be accessible to the public and with some parameters for investigative data, of course, for ongoing investigations. So there will be many bills we anticipate introduced on that topic as it moves through the process, and we'll keep you abreast of that as that progresses. And then the only other significant update we would have for this week, kind of a short week, would be on transportation. We're going to be having, I think, a lot of updates for you on transportation as we move through the legislative session. And the overall theme that we're seeing emerge on this topic is really about, on the one hand, repurposing existing state revenue that might be in the general fund. That should be repurposed and designated and dedicated to transportation and transit purposes. Or, and it's not necessarily an or, but sometimes an or, raising new revenue to dedicate towards transit and transportation. And then third choice would be a both. So we'll see kind of how that progresses as we move forward. But it's interesting to watch the bills as they're coming through, particularly on the House side. A lot of the approaches are identifying whether it's certain items like tires or parts that are used to repair automobiles. The sales tax revenue generated for those types of purchases to be dedicated toward transportation. That would then, of course, create a hole in the general fund for that money right now, because those are services and those are products that are currently taxed, and that goes to the general fund right now. So that's just an example of some of that dialogue going forward. And then we have a lot of other proposals to be raising new revenue for those purposes, such as the gas tax and things of that nature. We don't have a date for you yet, but we do know that Senator Dibble, who is a senator from Minneapolis, who also chairs the Senate Transportation and Public Safety Finance Committee in the state Senate, is going to be holding a field hearing here in North Minneapolis We don't have a date for you, but we are really excited to be hosting him, his committee here. We'll be sending out information to council members, so you can be getting that out to your constituents. We like to encourage the public to attend. Senator Dibble is looking for stories and experiences and support for his bill that's making a significant investment in transit and transportation throughout the state and here in the city of Minneapolis. So stay tuned for a date on that. And then the last piece along those lines, just last night, myself and representatives from the city of St. Paul and our partners at the League of Minnesota Cities attended the annual board meeting for the Minnesota Association of Small Cities to talk about transit and transportation needs. I was able to speak to the group about the connection between small cities and cities like the city of Minneapolis, and sometimes it's really overlooked how much we have in common, and that we really are looking for opportunities to have our population be able to age in place, and that takes transportation investment. That we are looking at preserving and maintaining the infrastructure that we have right now, not expanding and sprawling, and that we really have that in common with some of those small cities, and that Minneapolis really is a series of a lot of small cities with our neighborhoods and our active neighborhood associations. So we really did feel like we had a lot of mutual connections, and that we really look forward to working with them as the legislative session progresses. So with that, Madam Chair, I think that for now, unless there are questions from the committee, would conclude the legislative update for this cycle.
So thank you so much for that report. So we are to receive and file this federal, state, local, and legislative update, and we will move on to number 2, which is our legislative policies for 2015 to discuss seed libraries.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. We have 2 updates to the legislative policy positions today. The first one is a statement that would read that the city of Minneapolis would support legislation that allows for interpersonal, non-commercial seed sharing, as well as a continued operation of seed libraries and exchanges operated by libraries, educational institutions, and nonprofit agencies. I would point out that this would be an amendment to our longer policy position statement. This would not go on the the legislative agenda for 2015 as one of the top priorities. This would be a support item in the policy positions. There is currently a Senate bill that's been introduced. There's no House companion at this time, so most of the action on this has been in the Senate. And by way of background, seed libraries are exchanges, or libraries are nonprofit depositories for seeds that can be used by the public. And this has been used in cities around Minnesota, particularly in Duluth and Moorhead. This is an opportunity for members of the public to come together and share seeds either at no cost or at very low cost with their neighbors. And the way that the statute is currently on the books in Minnesota, just by handing a seed to your neighbor, you're actually violating the law. And so there's an attempt to update the statute in a way that really reflects a lot of the sharing and the work that we were doing with Homegrown Minneapolis and our urban agriculture, and just plain common sense that you can share seeds at no or low cost in an interpersonal manner with those in your community. So we have staff here today from the Sustainability Office if there are any further questions. There is language that we think is going to be moving forward as a compromise that sets some parameters around the dollar amount threshold. I believe it's $5,000 or less in annual sales, and that the exchange has to be interpersonal in nature. That it can't really, be a larger business operation, and then you get into issues of labeling and products and things of that nature. So with that, Madam Chair, I would stand for questions on this RCA.
Sure. Do we have questions on this item? Councilmember Andrew Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was really excited to see this item on the agenda, and I'd love to move it forward for approval. And I think it really has some strong opportunities to help progress heirloom seed varieties and genetics within our city, which for those that don't know, they have so much different variety of produce out there that's just not maybe, for instance, a red tomato. We might have yellow tomatoes. We might have, I've actually grown them spicy purple carrots. So a lot of different fascinating varieties out there, and I can really see how this would help with that. I'm curious, did this come up through staff? Did this come up through the Food Council, through homegrown?
Through the Food Council.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank those members for bringing this forward to us.
Wonderful. Any more questions? No? I just have one tiny question before we move the approval. Is this relating to organic seeds, or I'm aware that there's this thing called terminator seeds that are actually don't grow after a certain period of time based on the movies I've seen. So I don't know if you have more clarity around what type of seeds. Is there specific language around, is it organic seeds that come from organic plants, or could it be like a corn seed from a Monsanto field out in rural Minnesota? I mean, I'm just kind of curious about the, I don't know, definitions of what type of seeds.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. And in the bill as it's currently standing, no, there is no distinction. And I think to your point of, are these Monsanto seeds and things of that nature, I think that's where the initial prohibition in statute came from. So that's why this clarification is necessary, to make a little space for people who want to be doing this on their own.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a motion to move this forward by Councilmember Andrew Johnson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And we shall move forward with that. So item number 4, 2015 legislative policies, investigation of an officer-involved death.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. This RCA is also to add a statement of support to our policy positions document, and it would read, to support the ability of public safety agencies to engage other public safety agencies to conduct an investigation of an officer-involved death. Currently, there is no House bill. The Senate bill has been introduced by Chairman Latz of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The bill would instruct the Post Board, which is the Board of Police Officer Standards and Training, in consultation with organizations representing public safety officials such as the Chiefs of Police Association and the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, to develop a model policy that would be required to be a model policy that police departments and sheriff's departments throughout the state would either have to adopt that policy or a same or similar policy when there's an officer-involved shooting, that investigation into that specific incident would need to be conducted by an outside agency. The bill as it currently reads says that there have to be at least 2 agents, and one of which has to be from an outside agency. I think some of those specifics are going to be tweaked as the bill moves along, but the overall concept of this type of an investigation being handled by an independent outside agency is really the crux of the legislation. So we would be in a support capacity with this as well.
Wonderful. Are there questions? Seeing no questions, the motion before us is to approve the amendment to the Public Safety Policies and Coordination Efforts section by adding the following language: ability of public safety agencies to engage another public safety agency to conduct an investigation of an officer-involved death. All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. And this passes. And we will now go back to item number 3, which I referenced earlier, was the Comprehensive Transportation Legislation resolution. So we will just take a vote to postpone this by 1 cycle. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Motion passes. And without further business before us, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.